My name is Daniel, and today I want to tell you a secret that my wife Chloe hid from me when we first started dating. Our love has always been intense and deep, and we both believed that we were the ideal couple, prepared to take on any challenge. However, time has gradually shown that life is not always as peaceful as anticipated, and after 5 years, there is one thing that puts a lot of pressure on us both. We still don't have children. Depict a home full of kids who are the embodiment of our love, but over time, those hopes have dwindled into a silent emptiness, and I have frequently witnessed Chloe's disappointment in her eyes. Perhaps this was the greatest pain of her life, a sorrow that even her husband could not completely comprehend. At first, Chloe was a kind, sensitive woman who always knew how to raise a family and was always aware of every little detail, took care of me, and created a loving family environment, which I greatly valued. However, as time went on and the failed attempts to conceive children continued, Chloe evolved into a hot-tempered, irritable, and somewhat rude person that I had never seen in her before. I knew that Chloe was in a lot of pain, but that change made me anxious and restless, and things became more serious when Chloe began drinking with friends, something she had never done before and frequently went out in the evenings. We went to the hospital for a fertility check, and the results were not what we had anticipated. The doctor stated that Chloe had health issues, and that her uterus was weak and showed signs of serious damage, which made it very difficult for her to get pregnant. Chloe met and drank with friends, and every time she came home, she was drunk and staggered into the house. On some days, I had to help her get into bed and change her clothes because the smell of alcohol filled the air. I realized that Chloe felt bad about me because she believed that she was the reason we couldn't have a whole family. Maybe in her heart, she was afraid that I would leave her to find another woman who could have a child for me. Even though I had always reassured her that having children wasn't the only thing that kept us together. As soon as she heard the news, Chloe completely collapsed. She bowed her head, and her eyes seemed to fall into the void as if the world had just collapsed. I knew Chloe would find it difficult to believe that my love for her was independent of whether or not I had children. She was constantly torturing herself late at night, and when she came home intoxicated, she fell asleep on the bed. I sat next to her and watched her sleep, feeling sorry for her because I knew she was lost and struggling with negative thoughts, feeling that she was no longer valuable in my life. She would occasionally sigh or cry when she saw happy families with kids on the streets. Those moments made me. I was heartbroken, but I was also powerless because I knew that only Chloe herself could get over this intense pain. I had considered taking her on a trip to decompress, or getting her help from psychological therapy to help her find balance in her life. But Chloe refused to listen to my advice, and instead sank into her own world, blaming herself and tormenting herself in silence. This not only hurt Chloe, but it also left me feeling helpless. Exhausted one evening after work, I came home to discover the house decorated differently. The flickering candlelight illuminated the dining table, and the rich aroma of a cozy dinner filled the air. I couldn't help but feel a little taken aback, wondering if there was something special waiting for me since Chloe had withdrawn and paid little attention to the family atmosphere after learning the bad news about the possibility of having children. Sink into the cold like a mirror reflecting the sadness that words could not describe. But today everything seemed to brighten when Chloe saw me walk in. She smiled gently and invited me to sit at the dining table, and I could sense something different in her eyes. A gentleness mixed with a bit of determination, as if she was ready for something she had been considering for a long time. We sat across from each other eating dinner in a warm, romantic setting that we hadn't experienced in a long time. I knew Chloe had struggled to be able to say these words when the obsession of not being able to have children had weighed heavily on her mind for so long. So I held her hand tightly and gave her a wordless message that it was okay. After a long time, Chloe started to say loving words, recalling sweet memories from the day we first met about what we had experienced together. She spoke of the deep love we have for each other, of our dreams of a happy family, and of the faith she had placed in our relationship. No matter what, I would still be here with her through it all. That night, in an atmosphere of love and empathy, we were close to one another, hoping to get past our pain and worries to create the miracle we both desired, a child. We showed each other the utmost genuine tenderness, thinking that our love would somehow make up for our physical flaws and make happiness smile upon us. However, time passed, and our hopes were crushed once more. And in the days that followed, Chloe counted the hours, thinking that this time, a miracle would happen, would occur. But then there was no indication that our wishes would be fulfilled. Instead, there was only a long period of emptiness, a fearful silence, and a repetition of everything we had gone through innumerable times before Chloe fell into a deep state of despair. I could sense the intense suffering she was going through. The light in her eyes gradually dimmed, and hope once more slipped away, shattering my heart. We sat next to each other in silence, but neither of us knew what to say because words of consolation at this point were useless in the face of. We did everything we could to fight for this love, but sometimes dreams are just too far away. That night, I just sat quietly next to her, letting her lean on my shoulder, and listened to Chloe sob in the dark of the night as we sat together in the living room. Chloe abruptly broke the silence with a suggestion that I did not expect. Her eyes were hesitant, but her face was full of. She looked at me, took a deep breath, and said, "Honey, I've been thinking for a long time. Maybe we should find another way to have a child." I scowled, not understanding what Chloe was trying to say. Her voice was soft but determined. "I found a few people who are willing to help us. If you agree, you will do that with them to have a child. This is the only way for us to have a child without further disappointment." Believe what I just heard. Chloe was asking me to have sex with other women while we were still married. I felt disappointed and hurt, and my heart tightened. I said, "No, Chloe, I can't do this," with my eyes fixed on her. "Do you realize that this could ruin everything we have, our love?" Chloe bit her lip, and her eyes began to water, but she didn't waver. "Daniel, I know this is difficult, but I have no choice. Do you realize that I have to? This is the only way, baby." I looked at Chloe and saw the pain in her eyes, a pain that no amount of consolation or encouragement could ease. She had endured too much, and I realized that not having children was not only her personal pain, but also the fear of losing the home we had worked so hard to build. I tried my best every day, but my body can't handle it. Every time I think about us never having children, my heart feels like it's going to suffocate. I was silent as a result, battling my pride and my duty to my family. Chloe's eyes were begging, full of longing, like those of a tired, desperate woman holding on to her last hope. Eventually, I nodded slightly, as if in reluctant agreement. I didn't really want to do this, but I couldn't bear to let Chloe go through this pain alone. If this could truly make her happy, then maybe I was willing to make the trade-off. Chloe quickly found 2 girls who agreed to help. I'm not sure how or where she met them, and I didn't want to ask. Everything happened so quickly, and I was caught in a difficult-to-define spiral. One day, Chloe informed me that the 2 girls would be coming to the house that evening. When they arrived, Chloe had everything ready. They were both shy, young girls with gentle appearances, and I could feel the tension in the air as soon as they entered the house. Chloe graciously invited them into the living room, where I was waiting in a state of bewilderment. She tried to talk to defuse the situation by sitting next to me and holding my hand tightly, which gave me some courage, but I knew that beneath that composed exterior, she was also dealing with complex emotions and the secret pain that she had been keeping for so long. When the time came, Chloe got up and left the room, leaving the 2 girls and I in a suffocating. When Chloe received a call from one of the girls one morning, she turned to face me. Her eyes were full of tears, and she was displaying signs of pregnancy. "Honey," she said. My heart fluttered, both surprised and happy. In silence, I felt like an outsider in my own life, a stranger to the room, to the people in front of me, and even to myself. Part of me wanted to get up, leave, and give up on everything, but something kept me from doing so. I looked at Chloe and saw her eyes light up with a radiant joy that I hadn't seen in a long time. The following day, Chloe made arrangements for the girl to go to the hospital for a checkup, and Chloe and I accompanied her to the clinic, where we sat anxiously waiting for the results. No one spoke, just silence in the oppressive air, and the ticking of the second hand seemed to play. This was partly because I couldn't believe what I had just heard, but also because I couldn't stop the sudden happiness that rose in my heart. To last forever. When the doctor emerged, he grinned and declared that the girl was, in fact, pregnant. I watched as Chloe broke down in tears, unable to control them, and tightly hugged my hand as she sobbed, feeling both relieved and happy at the same time. As time went on, Chloe took care of the girl completely, acting as a sister would, buying wholesome food, researching all the nutritional facts, and being by her side the entire time. As the months went by, the girl's belly continued to grow, and Chloe always made sure the baby in her belly would get the best care. On the day of the baby's birth, Drew was close by, and Chloe and I prepared everything for the baby. A small room painted a soft blue, a beautiful crib, and small clothes that Chloe had personally chosen. She frequently sat by the crib, gently caressing the items prepared for the baby, smiling with satisfaction and happiness in her eyes. When the girl called Chloe one spring morning to tell her that she was starting to show signs of labor, we hurried to the hospital with a lot of excitement and anxiety. On the way there, Chloe held my hand tightly, and I could feel her hands shaking with anticipation and anxiety. In the hospital waiting room, we sat in silence, our eyes fixed on the delivery room door, and we both tensed up every time a doctor or nurse passed by. Time seemed to go on forever, but then there was a cry of birth. When the doctor emerged, grinning and declaring that we had a healthy baby boy, Chloe couldn't wait another second. She ran into the room where the girl was lying on the bed with the newborn baby in her arms. The girl handed the baby to Chloe, and Chloe's eyes lit up with an unheard of happiness. She held the baby, as if cherishing a precious moment she had waited her entire life for. I stood beside him in silence, watching Chloe hold the baby in her arms. Her eyes were full of affection, and she stroked his soft cheeks while whispering in a sweet voice, "Hello, my dear mom and dad have been waiting for you for a long time." His face was chubby and adorable, and his clear eyes were looking at the world around him in wonder. This child was the dream we had long longed for, and it was a testament to the sacrifices and hard work we had made together. The baby had become the hope, joy, and new vitality of our small home. And every day when I see Chloe's happy eyes as she holds her baby in her arms, I feel the resilience and unconditional love of a woman I will always cherish. With the arrival of the child, the conflicts and contradictions that had been simmering between Chloe and me were resolved. Our lives would change forever. Chloe gave the baby all of her love and care from the very first day. I saw her as a different person, a gentle, selfless, and loving mother. But I couldn't help but feel conflicted because the decision we made to have this child was not an easy one. The child gave Chloe a new wave of hope and happiness that seemed to have been worn away over the years of hardship. The child was a consolation for the deep pain she had endured, and she dedicated all of her time and love to the child, caring for every moment with sincere love. I occasionally questioned whether we had truly made the right decision in choosing that course of action. The child was my biological child, but the way it came to us left me with a lot of worries and a burden of thoughts that will likely follow me for the rest of my life. As for the girl who gave birth to the child, after carrying out her duty, she gradually moved away from our lives. Chloe made sure she would have a stable future, and she left quietly, leaving behind nothing but a happy and healthy child. I'm grateful for her bravery and sacrifice, but I'm also curious if she felt bad about leaving this child for us. Through everything I've been through, I've come to realize that love isn't always easy or straightforward. In the most trying times, we've had to make decisions and make trade-offs that no one could have predicted. And sometimes achieving happiness requires taking difficult routes. The child has given our lives joy and purpose, but the path to get there is also a trade-off that we will never forget. Most importantly, I realized that true love is more than just sweet moments and promises. It's the capacity to support one another through difficult times, even at the expense of some of our peace and dignity. I also gained a deeper understanding of Chloe and came to terms with the fact that we are not always flawless, and that not every choice we make is entirely correct. But the one thing I know for sure is that we always do our best for one another, and our life goes on with the happiness and laughter of our child. Although the burden of not having a child has been lifted, the journey to have a child was not easy. I know that this experience will always be a mark in our lives. Will we be happy forever, or will we face another challenge? I don't know, but I do know that we have come a long way. And now our family has a new beginning with a new baby, a new hope. This child will grow up unaware of the hardships and sacrifices we have made to have him. But maybe just seeing his smile every day will ease our suffering. And suffering will eventually be lessened in spite of everything I've promised myself to do in order for this child to grow up contentedly, mature in love, and live in harmony in marriage and family life. Things don't always go as planned or smoothly, but the most crucial thing is to understand, listen, and support them. This is especially true during trying times when it's easy to lose focus and become under pressure, which can lead to decisions that we may later regret. My advice is to always remain sober and calm, be willing to share, and seek assistance from family members or professionals if necessary. Avoid making decisions when your emotions are out of balance, as this may result in unintended consequences. Most importantly, keep in mind that true love is more than just sweet moments. It also calls for tolerance, patience, and sacrifice to get through all obstacles together.